Imagine a world where every woman on screen is written by men, where femininity is scripted, rehearsed, and rehearsed again until it pleases the powers that be. For most of Hollywood's golden age, that was reality. Women were cast to adorn, to obey, to soften the hard edges of the male lead. They weren't meant to challenge the narrative, only to decorate it. But some didn't comply. This episode follows 20 women who didn't just act in Hollywood, they acted out. They rejected the roles designed to contain them. Some broke gender codes with silence. Others dared to age without apology. A few were punished for loving the wrong person, for being too loud, too smart, or simply unwilling to smile on cue. Their stories aren't about glamour. They're about resistance, quiet, fierce, and unforgettable. Together, these women redefined what it means to be a star, to be female, to be powerful. Not by asking permission, but by forcing the industry to reckon with them. Who among them shattered the illusion best? And who paid the highest price for simply being herself? You may think you know these names, but you've never heard their stories told like this. Fact has shown Katharine Hepburn, unapologetically unscripted. Long before gender non-conforming became a headline, Katharine Hepburn simply lived without explanation. While studios begged for soft curves and softer voices, she showed up in slacks, shoulders squared, unbothered. Her refusal to perform femininity made her a pariah at first. She was branded box office poison, discarded for being too brash, too sharp, too herself. But Hepburn didn't fade. She strategized. She acquired the rights to the Philadelphia story, handpicked the studio, and claimed the lead role on her own terms. This wasn't reinvention, it was reclamation. The character mirrored Hepburn, brilliant, blunt, and completely in control of her own narrative. Away from the spotlight, she kept the same principles: no public apologies, no compromise, no surrender to what society demanded of ladies. She didn't conform, she didn't retreat. She simply persisted, louder, clearer, stronger. She wasn't Hollywood's idea of a woman, she was her own. And maybe that's why the system never quite knew what to do with her, except remember. Fact #2. Ida Lupino, the quiet director who didn't ask for permission. Ida Lupino entered Hollywood as another pretty face. But while others posed, she watched, observed where power flowed, not in front of the camera, behind it. When illness sidelined a male director on set, she stepped in, finished the film. No formal training, no fanfare, just competence. And then she kept going. Lupino went on to direct gritty, taboo-breaking films about subjects like assault and disability, the kind of stories studios refused to greenlight. So she formed her own company, produced them herself, wrote, shot, edited while still acting to bankroll her independence. She never fit the director stereotype, because there was no stereotype for a woman in that role. Hollywood didn't roll out the red carpet. It barely acknowledged her. But she built her career like scaffolding steel, hidden from view, but holding up an entire generation that followed. She didn't need credit. She needed control, and she took it quietly, permanent. Fact #3. Hattie McDaniel, Oscar winner, industry outcast. Hattie McDaniel's Oscar win should have been a breakthrough. Instead, it was a boundary. Her performance in Gone with the Wind earned her history's first Academy Award for a black actor, but she wasn't allowed to sit with her white co-stars at the ceremony. She wasn't invited to the after-parties. Her image was celebrated. Her presence was unwelcome. After the applause faded, Hollywood had no new offers for her. Just more maids, more nannies, more roles that reinforced stereotypes she couldn't escape. McDaniel defended herself. "I'd rather play a maid than be one," she said, a brutal truth for a woman who had few options, fewer allies, and no roadmap. Activists accused her of compliance. The industry offered no alternatives, so she turned her attention elsewhere, funding scholarships, supporting black performers, and building space where none existed. Her legacy remains complicated, but maybe that's the point. Sometimes, survival is its own form of rebellion. Fact #4. Marlene Dietrich, the gender mirage Hollywood couldn't contain. Marlene Dietrich didn't just play with gender, she made it shimmer and disappear. In a town obsessed with binaries, she walked in wearing tailored suits, kissing women on screen, and never asking if it was allowed. Her role in Morocco wasn't a performance, it was a provocation, a tuxedo, a smirk, a kiss, all in one breathless moment. Hollywood didn't know how to categorize her. Audiences were captivated. Censors panicked. Off-screen, she was no less enigmatic. She turned down roles she found demeaning, publicly rejected the Nazi regime, entertained Allied troops in war zone. Her choices weren't just personal, they were political. She didn't embody femininity. She bent it, warped it, undressed it, made it dangerous. And she did it all with lipstick, cigarette smoke, and absolute control. Was she the future or the warning? Fact #5. Lauren Bacall, the shadow that refused to fade. Lauren Bacall's voice was husky, her gaze legendary. But what made her unforgettable was what she didn't say. At 19, she lit up the screen beside Humphrey Bogart, instantly cast as his match on screen and off. The press couldn't stop calling her his girl. But Bacall was never content to be anyone's footnote. She fought for roles that stood on their own. She wasn't a romantic interest, she was the point. When scripts fell short, she walked away. When age closed doors, she turned to Broadway and made them open again. Her stardom was less about force, more about refusal. Refusal to be sidelined. Refusal to disappear into someone else's spotlight. They called her the Look, but her real power was in how long she held it and who blinked first. Fact #6. Ingrid Bergman, the exile who came back unbent. Ingrid Bergman had the face of a saint and the heart of a renegade. She was beloved, untouchable, until she wasn't. When she left her husband and began a relationship with director Roberto Rossellini, Hollywood erupted. She was denounced in Congress, blacklisted, shamed, all for doing what countless men before her had done: love without asking for permission. But Bergman didn't beg forgiveness. She left the country, made films in Italy, changed her language, her collaborators, her entire cinematic identity. Then, 7 years later, she returned and won the Oscar for Anastasia. She never explained herself, never softened her defiance. She just kept acting, kept owning every space she walked into. Hollywood tried to erase her for stepping out of line, but she didn't vanish, she evolved. And when she came back, it wasn't to apologize, it was to remind them who they'd tried to forget. Fact #7. Gloria Swanson, the relic who turned decay into power. In the silence of the 1,920 seconds, Gloria Swanson reigned like a living statue, opulent, untouchable, and terrifyingly self-aware. But when sound arrived, her empire cracked. The world moved on. She didn't. Instead, she waited, bided her time, and when Sunset Boulevard offered her the role of a has-been, she accepted not as surrender, but as vengeance. Her portrayal of Norma Desmond wasn't acting. It was a resurrection. A woman once worshipped, now discarded, looking straight at the audience and daring them to look away. Off-screen, Swanson had long been a strategist. She produced, negotiated, lobbied a businesswoman dressed in lace and steel. She spoke out about reproductive rights, conservation, and power. Long before those things were respectable, they thought she belonged to a forgotten era. She made sure that era spoke back and louder than ever. Fact #8. Judy Garland, the girl they built and broke. She sang about rainbows, but Judy Garland lived in shadows. From the moment MGM claimed her, she was reshaped: body, voice, sleep schedule, pills to wake, pills to sleep, praise that turned to pressure, applause that curdled into isolation. They gave her fame, but not freedom. Her performances glowed because she poured herself dry into every note, every scene. And still, the studio wanted more. When her youth faded, they turned, called her unreliable, difficult, but the audiences never left. They heard the truth in her voice, the cracking vulnerability, the trembling need to be loved without being used. She wasn't just a star, she was a wound they kept reopening, because pain sold tickets. Judy Garland didn't survive Hollywood, but she exposed it in every heartbreak she dared to sing out loud. Fact #9. Jane Fonda, the beautiful disruption. Jane Fonda could have coasted on charm and cheekbones. She was born into Hollywood royalty and sculpted like a marketing dream. But somewhere along the way, she broke the mirror. Her shift from space-age sex symbol to political firebrand wasn't a rebrand, it was a rejection. She didn't just voice opinions, she courted outrage. She knelt with enemies. She marched against wars. She got arrested and judged. Hollywood punished her. Sponsors pulled away. But when she returned in Cluton Coming Home, she was sharper, harder, honest. Her eyes no longer asked to be seen. They challenged you to look. Fonda's legacy isn't just about transformation. It's about confrontation, with power, with expectation, with herself. She didn't just change the roles she played, she changed who had the right to define womanhood in the first place. Fact #0. Faye Dunaway, the actress who refused to smile for the camera. Faye Dunaway never played nice. Her characters were electric, ruthless, ambitious, fragile, sometimes all at once. She didn't soften herself to fit the mold. She shattered the mold and wore the shards. In Bonnie and Clyde, she glamorized rebellion. In Chinatown, she hid trauma behind elegance. And in Network, she embodied the corporate predator with terrifying clarity. These weren't roles built for comfort. They were confrontations. Directors feared her. Studios whispered. She was too intense, hard to work with. What they really meant was, she wouldn't obey. Dunaway didn't cater, she demanded. And when Hollywood tried to shut her out, she carved out her own mythology, one that didn't require permission or approval. She didn't play women you wanted to protect. She played women who didn't need you. And in an industry obsessed with charm, she dared to be difficult. Fact Hassanon, Jessica Lange, the muse who became the architect. Jessica Lange entered Hollywood through a fantasy draped across King Kong's palm, helpless and golden. But she refused to be anyone's pretty metaphor. As her career evolved, she veered toward the uncomfortable. Her performances grew sharper, her choices riskier. In Frances, she portrayed a woman devoured by the system. In Tootsie, she exposed quiet pain beneath romantic cliches. She wasn't chasing likability, she was chasing truth. And when the roles dried up, she didn't retreat, she waited. Then, television came calling, and she delivered performances that were volcanic, vulnerable, vicious. She let herself be angry, ugly, messy, real. Lange didn't age gracefully, she aged unapologetically. And with every wrinkle, she made a new kind of beauty visible, the kind that stares back and doesn't blink. Fact Hassono, Ellen Burstyn, the actress who gave pain a voice. Ellen Burstyn made heartbreak look holy. She didn't just play emotion, she inhabited it. Her characters breathed, cracked, and collapsed with a dignity that felt biblical. In The Exorcist, she was maternal terror restrained by realism. In Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, she fought for survival as a woman too often overlooked, but it was Requiem for a Dream that turned her into a legend, a portrait of loneliness so raw it bordered on unbearable. Hollywood didn't know what to do with her depth. Roles for women her age were thin, trivial. She refused them, waited, studied, mentored, and when the right scripts arrived, she answered with fury and grace. Burstyn proved that pain isn't weakness, it's architecture, and that even silence can roar if the actress behind it refuses to fade. Fact Hasson 3, Sally Field, From Laugh Track to Lightning Rod. Sally Field began as a smile, perky, polished, predictable. Hollywood loved her as long as she stayed small. They gave her wings in The Flying Nun, but clipped them everywhere else. She was typecast as charming, safe, forgettable, but Field refused to stay cute. Her turn in Sybil revealed emotional range that terrified casting agents who only saw dimples. And when she stepped into Norma Ray, she didn't just act, she rattled the screen. Sweat, grit, and a raised fist became her new signature. The transformation didn't come with ease. She had to fight to be heard, harder to be respected, and even harder to be taken seriously. But once she cracked the image they'd built around her, there was no going back. She proved that strength doesn't always arrive with a shout sometimes. It starts with a girl they thought would never matter. Fact Hasson 4. Sigourney Weaver, the final girl who became the first woman. Before Ripley, women in horror screamed. After Ripley, they survived. Sigourney Weaver didn't inherit a genre, she transformed it. In Alien, she wasn't the love interest, the sidekick, or the victim. She was the leader, the last one standing, the one who outsmarted the monster. Her performance redefined who could carry a franchise. She wasn't delicate, she wasn't helpless, she wasn't even relatable in the traditional sense she was necessary. Weaver followed Ripley with roles that echoed that intelligence and presence, women who didn't flinch, didn't ask for permission, and didn't need to smile to own the room. She made space for female strength that didn't apologize. And in doing so, she made sure that after her, strong female character wasn't a novelty, it was a standard. Fact 15. Susan Sarandon. No apologies. No edits. Susan Sarandon never waited for Hollywood to tell her what kind of woman to be. She decided that for herself again and again. From Thelma and Louise to Dead Man Walking, she inhabited women who refused to beg for understanding. Women who had blood on their hands and conviction in their eyes. She didn't hide her age. She didn't temper her sensuality. She didn't silence her politics. As actresses around her faded into invisibility after 40, Sarandon stayed luminous and loud. She chose roles that demanded discomfort. She spoke when silence would have earned her more roles. And she never let fear dictate her presence. She wasn't interested in pleasing you. She was interested in challenging you, because some women don't age out. They burn hotter the longer they stay. Fact Hashanix, Michelle Pfeiffer, the star who walked away from the spotlight. Michelle Pfeiffer had everything Hollywood worshipped: beauty, mystique, presence. She could have played the game forever, but she didn't. At the height of her fame, after roles in Scarface, The Fabulous Baker Boys, and Batman Returns, Pfeiffer did something radical. She paused. She disappeared, not in scandal and silence. She walked away, not because she had to, but because she chose to. Pfeiffer resisted being commodified. She avoided roles that recycled her looks, turned down scripts that flattened her soul, and put motherhood and autonomy ahead of red carpets. When she returned, she didn't beg for legacy roles. She played haunted, hardened, human women, far from the seductresses she once embodied. Her beauty never defined her. Her absence did. In an industry that demands visibility, Michelle Pfeiffer proved that power also lives in stepping away. Fact Hasson 7. Frances McDormand, the face that refused to lie. Frances McDormand never cared for the rules of the red carpet. No makeup, no retouching, no branding deals, just the work. She refused to be part of the illusion and built a career on exposing truth. In Fargo, she turned a pregnant cop into a moral compass. In 3 Billboards, she weaponized grief. And in Nomadland, she blurred the line between performance and existence. She didn't chase glamour, she chased authenticity. She made the industry uncomfortable not by shouting, but by showing up exactly as she is. Hollywood didn't know how to market her, but it couldn't ignore her. Frances McDormand didn't age out of the system, she outgrew it. Fact Hasson 8. Jodie Foster, the voice Hollywood couldn't manipulate. Jodie Foster grew up in the spotlight but never let it own her. As a child star in Taxi Driver, she stunned. As an adult, she vanished between projects, not for lack of offers, but by design. Foster's brilliance isn't in how much she shared, but in what she withheld. She kept her personal life hers. She resisted being defined by her sexuality, her politics, or her past. She spoke only when it mattered, and only in her own words. Her performances, from The Accused to The Silence of the Lambs, weren't built on vulnerability, they were built on control. Quiet, exacting, formidable. She didn't become a product of Hollywood, she became a professional in spite of it. And sometimes, the most radical thing a woman can be is unavailable. Fact Hasson 9. Cate Blanchett, the actress who refused to be Reed. Clearly, Cate Blanchett is a paradox wrapped in posture. She doesn't perform as much as she embodies. Royalty, criminals, ghosts, men, women, in between. In Elizabeth, she transformed into power incarnate, brittle, divine, terrifying. In Carol, she radiated restraint that burned hotter than any monologue. And in Tar, she played an artist so complex, you're unsure if you should admire her or run. Blanchett doesn't play for empathy, she plays for understanding, even if it never comes. She dismantles the idea of the female lead and reconstructs it into something elastic, dangerous, untamed. Her brilliance lies in her refusal to be labeled, not by genre, not by gender, not by trend. Cate Blanchett isn't in character, she becomes architecture for the story to inhabit. What happens when the actress disappears and only transformation remains? Fact #20. Tilda Swinton, the body that transcended the frame. Tilda Swinton doesn't act within boundaries, she erases them. In Orlando, she traveled through time and gender. In art house cinema, she became alien, ethereal, unknowable. Her choices are deliberate, her presence magnetic. She doesn't perform humanity, she interrogates it. Swinton doesn't conform to Hollywood's ideas of womanhood or stardom or even performance itself. She exists on the edge just far enough to be untouchable, close enough to haunt. Off-screen, she lives outside the machine. No paparazzi, no persona, just presence. She's not a symbol, she's a rupture, a glitch in the system designed to keep people like her out. And she walked in anyway, not through the door, but through the wall. Bonus fact: Mae West, the original disruptor. Before Hollywood was ready for women who spoke their minds, Mae West had already written the line. She didn't just act, she authored. Pen plays dripping with innuendo, starring herself as the unapologetic center of desire and danger. When morality police shut down her Broadway show, she didn't retreat, she capitalized on it. West arrived in Hollywood older than most starlets and instantly rewrote the rules. She refused to be lit like a young girl, refused to soften her voice, refused to hide her appetite for power. She once said, "I speak 2 languages, body and English." And she spoke both fluently to the horror of censors and delight of audiences. Hollywood tried to rein her in with codes and edits. Mae West just added more diamonds and kept going. They didn't wait to be celebrated. They didn't ask to be understood. These 21 women confronted a system designed to shape them and shape something far more lasting instead. Some cracked the mirror gently. Others shattered it with purpose. All of them left behind fragments, sharp, glinting, unforgettable. They changed what it meant to be powerful, to be difficult, to be feminine, to be seen. And in doing so, they gave us not perfection, but possibility. So now it's your turn. Which of these women redefined what a star could be, and which one still isn't getting the credit she deserves? Was it rebellion or revelation? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and remember, in old Hollywood, silence was golden. But these women were louder than history ever expected,